Learning objectives tell everybody math what math facts you want your students to learn next. Learning objectives don't affect math facts your students have already learned, and they don't change when or how long your students will practice. I'll show you how to use learning objectives. First, change to the objectives page of Everybody Math. Here you see two tabs. The first tab, Manage, allows you to create and manage learning objectives. Since I don't have any learning objectives defined yet, all I see is the Add button. When I click it, I see this empty fact grid in which I'm going to define my first learner objectives. I'm going to make this one all of the squares, so I'll name it Squares. And choose multiplication. Now I'm going to choose all of the math facts in this learning objective by clicking on them. I want my students to learn all of the squares, so I'm choosing those math facts. When I'm done, I'll click on the check mark, and that learning objective is defined. Now I can define an additional learning objective by clicking on the Add button again. I want the students to work on the times 3s and the times 7s. So I'm going to name it times 3 and times 7 and choose multiplication again. Notice that when I click on the column header, it selects all of the math facts in the column. If I were to click it again, it would unselect them all. For now I want them selected though. Also notice that it highlighted this row as well. Since the commutative property applies in multiplication, 3 times 5 is taught at the same time as 5 times 3, so Everybody Math automatically shows that in the grid. Now I'm going to select the times 7s, and you can see that clicking on a row header works the same way, selecting the whole row and its commutative column. I'm going to save this objective. Now I have 2 objectives, and I'm going to create one more. This time, I'm going to define everything up to 10 times 10 as my objective. So I'm going to start by selecting the entire grid. I can do that by clicking in this corner. That selects everything. Now I'm going to take off the times 12s by clicking on that column header. Now I want to remove the times 11s as well. But notice here that 12 times 11 is already unselected. Because of that, when I click on the column header, it selects the whole column instead of unselecting. That's fine. I just click it again and it's unselected. Now I have all of the math facts up to times 10. You'll notice that some of these learning objectives have math facts in common. 3 times 3 and 7 times 7 are duplicates on these 2 grids, and the 10 times 10 grid includes most of these math facts. That's okay, because Everybody Math will give them credit for the ones they've already learned when they start a new learning objective. Now let's assign some of these learning objectives to our students. Click on the Assign tab. Now we've got a list of our students and their learning objectives. Let's assign them all to learn their squares. After they're fluent in their squares, I want them to work on times 3s and times 7s next, so I'm going to add that as a secondary objective for all of them. After they've learned their squares, Everybody Math will automatically start working on times 3s and times 7s with them. In this video, we learned about learner objectives, how to set them and how to assign them. Learner objectives tell Everybody Math what math facts you want your students to learn next.